What up, guys? It's Yugi Bros, and today I figure I don't have much more time before they release this, so probably better to talk about it now rather than later, and that is the limit list that will probably go into effect either next week or the week after. Judging by how they've done it in the past, they've released it a couple days after the box release, and while I still don't think that's a good idea, I think you should let the new set, thrive in the game for a little bit before you go and start banhammering stuff. I'm going to go through 40 different cards. I don't believe all 40 that I've selected should be on this list. However, I do think we should talk definitely about some of these cards. So, without further ado, let me reveal to you my 40 options. I love how Jar of Avarice sits at the bottom by itself. So, go ahead, throw in the comments about how you disagree with all of my ideas, and we'll go from here. But starting off, we're going to build the list how it currently is. Oh, sorry. There is no bans currently. I would like it to stay that way, but I guess we will see. Can I zoom out? Oh, I can zoom out. Perfect. Okay, so this is the current limited list that we have for speed duels, and I will say I actually like this list. I don't really have many complaints. There's going to be a few things we're going to talk about that I want to change, but aside from that, it's basically exactly how I think it should be. When this came out in April, there was only two problems I had with it. The first is I think Creature Swap deserves to be somewhere on this list. I don't exactly know where. I'd probably put it in this 3 of section and just call it a day. I'm going to put all the new cards at the end of the stuff. The other thing I disagree with is I think this should be off the list. I don't think Union Hanger has ever deserved to be on this list, personally. I think if you're putting anything on the list, it's Union Scramble. However, XYZ at this point is basically a thing of the past. I don't know after the errata to the skill if it even contends, but if it does, I would just argue that this should either be here or it should be here. But the problem is, I would like to play more than one Foolish in that deck. I think the 1-in-1 here is probably fine. Again, I don't know. I don't know if we even touch the deck, if it even, if we take this off and just leave it be. I don't think it's going to do anything, because it didn't do anything with this at 2. Yeah, I guess they couldn't play Foolish with it. But see, now that's scary in my opinion. If you have 2 Foolish Burials and 3 Union Scrambles, I think you have a lot going for you, so I feel like maybe it should be here. But I'd say, why not try a format where we just take Union Hanger off and see where it goes? Because personally, again, I just don't think, I don't know. I think the game is sped up enough where it may not matter, but I could be wrong. Another card I want to talk about is Widespread Ruin. I think this clearly has missed multiple lists and probably should have always been here. It's just one of those power traps where you can combine with Book, Cosmic, Warrior Lady, I guess to a lesser extent Floodgate, should probably be on the 3 of lists. The problem is with the 3 of list being as ridiculous as it is, I don't want to make it too big because then everything gets bad, really bad. What do you do? Play 1, 1, 1? Or I'm sorry, 1, 1. You see the problem? 2, 1? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of putting it on the 3 ofs list without obviously correcting the problem with some of the 3 ofs and moving them onto different lists. While we're in the 3 ofs list, the Joey Skull got nerfed. It's probably unplayable now, so we could just take that off the list completely. I don't think that's going to be threatening anyone anytime soon. Twisted Personality, we'd leave here because the card is what it is. Cocoon is a different story. I don't think this card is insane anymore. I'd argue it wasn't even insane after they errated it, but then they also chucked it on the list. So I don't know. Part of me wants to say you either put it here or you just take it off. We're going to take it off for now, and then at the end we'll reevaluate and see if we feel it needs to move. Oh, here's a card I wish was always on this list, and that's Lava Golem. First off, it hasn't had a reprint, which is kind of a problem. I think it just needs a reprint. But I think they clearly understood they should never have put this in the game because 1,000 burn damage is nuts. I do understand you sacrifice your normal summon / set, but in a deck that is clearly trying to burn as the objective, they don't care. I just think it's a card that should just be a one of. right? Like if we were on the old system of a ban list, I don't think it should be at more than 1. That said, it's debatable whether you go 2 or 1. I'm just going to leave it on the 1 list for now. On that note, on the card next to it, now people are going to freak out when I say that I think Jinzo doesn't deserve to be on the one-ofs list. I understand this card is nuts, but we have so many things now in this game that deal with things to where I don't know if Jinzo deserves to be on the one-of list. Plus, we just gave it support in the box. It's kind of hard to run support around a card that you're only playing 1 of, and I understand like some of the support reborns it from the grave, but does it need to be here? Is my question. Like, can it be here? Again, we will reevaluate at the end of the list, and we will figure it out. I keep forgetting I said I'm going to put the new ideas at the end of the lists here. We'll reevaluate at the end and see if Jinzo being there is too strong or not. Back down here, I don't think they're going to limit any of the new cards, personally. I don't think they're going to do that. Even though I know I have 2 cards here from the new box. I don't think they're going to go about this. However, I do think eventually this card easily sees the 3 list, anti-magic arrows. The problem is I don't expect that now, simply because I don't see them hitting new cards. I don't think they've ever hit new cards. From what I remember. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But usually it's just Konami nature in general. You don't hit the new stuff. You let the new stuff thrive for a bit. You hit the older stuff. Same goes here for Gearfried, the Red Eyes Iron Knight. It's tough to say if Red Eyes is going to be a top contender yet, but I do think the deck is a lot stronger than I gave it credit for originally. It's an interesting question as to how to hit the deck. I think Gearfried is the biggest problem. I don't think you hit Baby Dragon because that's the recruiter for the deck. The deck's always needed a recruiter. And bringing out Vanilla Red Eyes is not the end of the world, in my opinion. But bringing out Gearfried, where it can immediately equip the baby, then pop a spell or trap on your opponent's battle phase, and then baby triggers to get you a level 1, is kind of nuts. So if you were to put this to 1, in my opinion, that's how you nerf Red Eyes from being overpowered. But again, I don't see them hitting new cards right out of the gate. So because of that, I think they're going to put Black Metal to 1. Because I think that's how you nerf Red Eyes without nerfing the new stuff. I think you put this to 1, then you just have it as a 1-of. As it is, Baby can add a dragon from deck or grave to hand, so it can loop the 1 from the graveyard. And then I think if Red Eyes ends up being as strong as it is, people will start citing DD Crow for this very 1-of card. I think the deck's still strong even without this, but obviously this is the centerpiece to the entire deck. So I actually, if they're going to not give Red Eyes the full power chance, they will hit Black Metal Dragon for sure. Moving on to kaijus like Lava Golem, I think Dogoron, it's tough to say, right? Because it's never seen a lot of play. Crystal Beast kind of utilized it the most, but my problem with Dogoron is that it's kind of twofold, right? So it just serves as a removal card, but it's also just so free, right? Like, so we have Santa Claus in the game, and I feel like the reason he's not free, you put him in defense and he's 25. I get Dogoron goes in attack at 3k, but that's beside the point. The downside to Santa Claus is that if it lives till the end of the turn, the opponent draws. They get a free card. Dogoron doesn't have that fault, so I don't know where you put this personally. I just think that, like, if the game exists where Santa Claus, Lava Golem, and Dogoron all exist, that you also put this here. Because having that many different kaijus is kind of insane. But I can also make the argument that this is probably too much of a stretch, so maybe you chuck it down here so that Crystal Beast, at least, if they're, playing Raigeki as they should be, aren't also playing triple Dogoron. I don't know. Again, we'll reevaluate at the end of the video. Sphere Karibo. Now, Sphere Karibo I've never considered to be busted. I really don't think it needs to be here. But I do see an argument some people put up, which is just having a hand trap in the game is kind of nuts. Is it? I don't know. Switch the monster to defense. What's the worst that could happen there? Book's already on the 3 of list, so if you're playing other cards, you have less things to move things to defense. I don't know. Is this too strong? In my opinion, you keep it off the list. But we'll come back to it. So because I said these are gonna stay off, we'll put them here. At least in my opinion, if they don't hit it. If they do, you could put Gear Freed on the 1 list, you could put Anti-Magic in the 3 list, and maybe this still gets hit, I'm not sure. Supply Squad. So I'm a little biased. I feel like the more I've been playtesting at least this format, this card should be a staple in 90% of the decks that exist. I don't understand why more people don't play this. I get that by itself does nothing. But as soon as anything dies, it trades for itself, at the very least. And if it thwarts Cosmic Cyclones, or Dust Tornadoes, or Twisters, or Galaxy Cyclone, I don't know, I just feel like that's really good too. But the longer this stays on the field, the stronger it gets. I know for a fact, if you open this, going first, and set this up with a monster, it's just really strong, like right out of the gate. Where would I put it, though, is the fun question. I hate overfilling the 3 of lists. I don't think it's a card that needs to get limited. I don't think it's a card that needs to get semied. I'd argue at 2 at least prevents people from shenanigans. I don't know. See, I never played Duel Links, so I don't have as much experience with this sort of a list. But I do think it obviously promotes more creativity. So it's tough to say where we would put this. Do I think Konami's going to hit this at all? No, I don't think they're going to touch this. And if I'm basically trying to predict what Konami's going to do, I guess I'll leave this here. But I do want to, highlight how good this card is. Just because I think it's nuts. Macrocosmos. I feel like this should never have been added to this game. I hope we never get Di-Fi. We have this, and we have Banisher, and they're both Macrocosmos. The difference is you can run over Banisher, he has a body. You cannot run over Macro. The upside to Banisher is that if they have Sphere Karibo and you normal this, they can't Sphere Karibo if it still lives through an attack. Macro, you'd have to set for a turn. So I get where they both contradict each other. I get why one's good in one situation, one's good in the other. Do I agree with both being at 3 in the game? I do not. But do you put both on the list? And that's a question. That's a good question. I don't think you touch Banisher. I think you leave it untouched. I don't think it's too strong. I don't think it's overbearing by any stretch of the imagination. I do, however, think that because it takes up a normal summon, right? But Macro, I don't know. This probably shouldn't be in the game at more than maybe 2 copies. You're never going to play this and Foolish in the same deck, right? You definitely could play Allure in that in the same deck. You definitely could play Ladybug in that in the same deck. That's a tough question. I feel like here it kind of is unharmed, but at the same time, if your strategy, I don't know, functions around this and this, maybe. Guys, is this a one of? I feel like it's kind of a one of. But we have Helios, and I get that they're going to want to promote that, so don't put it to 1, because that kind of kills that. Plus, if you flip this and they immediately out it... No, you don't get Helios. It's because it's continuous. I don't know. Let's leave it there for now, and keep going. Mind Crush is a side deck card. I don't know if I've ever seen it mained outside of, like, gimmicky things. I think it just deserves to be here. I think it's just a solid, like, throw it in the 3 ofs. That way people have to think harder. Because this is really strong. Side decking, post side deck, it's really, really strong. And now with a skill that lets you see everything your opponent draws in the draw phase, this just becomes insane, I feel. Like, you just literally will always call whatever they draw. If you want to guarantee something, and otherwise hit if they, like, search. It's arguable to throw it here, but I feel like if you do that, you're kind of unimpeding everything else. Like, if you have to choose between Book of Moon, Cosmic Cyclone, Floodgate, Widespread, and Mind Crush, like, you're actually going to have to think, right? So having it be like a 1 or 2 of, I think this is where it belongs personally. Nightbeam is another card where, like, you put it on the 3 ofs list if you hit it at all. I don't know if it needs to be hit, but I do understand. We got, like, Galaxy Cyclone in the last box, but it gets overshadowed by how strong Nightbeam is, just because they can't respond. So, again, I don't know. I just feel like you keep it on the 3 ofs list. That way you make people think a little bit harder. But if not that, then chuck it here. I don't know. People mostly just play 2. Just leave it on this, I guess. Jurigumo. I don't think this gets hit at all. So why is it on the list? Personally, I didn't think it needed to be on the list. But some people brought it to my attention that deck's strong. I disagree. I think that deck got nerfed on the last list. And now because this skill's gone, why would you even ever? He's 22. We just got Chain Silence deck that's 24. And I get giving your opponent free advantage is worse than just having your life. But I feel like his biggest downside is in his own effect. Jar of Avarice. So this would just be, you would put this here just to limit people from doing the thing where like they play this in Golden Ladybug for like the stall decks, right? We also just got Emergency Provisions, which is another way to gain a life. Preventing loops from happening, I feel like this is like the perfect spot for it. Don't put it here because you're never going to play it over this stuff. And I don't think it needs to be here. You're also never going to play this over this stuff. Offerings, as it is, Offerings is like the guaranteed #1 card. You just play in everything. If you don't need a Rhoda, or you don't need like a burn thing, or you don't need this and like Red Eyes, right? Offerings is just the card. You would never ever play this. I think this is the perfect spot for this. So just leave it on the 2 list. Just hit the gain infinite life decks a little bit further. Now, for things I would change, outside of what I've already changed that's already on this list, I hate to say this, but I think this needs to go here. I think it's time. I think this card's incredibly OP. And now that the skill exists that lets you put spell counters on things every turn, it's always a 2-for-1, if not a 3-for-1, if you flip the skill in the same turn. And that's insane. And I get that it's only insane in that deck with the spell counters deck, but like, I don't know, this card was always nuts anyway. And I think it deserves to be here. I do understand that by putting it at 1, you can now play like a Sidra, a Book, a something else, and a Breaker in a deck. And you can make that like, you know, your cookie cutter for anything. But I think it's fine. As a 1-of, I think it's fine. Plus, I want to give people the choice here. Do you play Offerings now or do you play Breaker? It's one or the other. Generically, it's one or the other. So, unfortunately, I love Breaker, the Magical Warrior. It's like my favorite card in Speed Duels. Oh, one of my favorite cards in Speed Duels, but I do not think it deserves to be at 3 anymore. You could make an argument to put it at 2, but I think most people just take advantage of it and play 2. I have a problem with Shell on this list. I get that it's here because this deck was crazy with Golden Ladybug. So if you wanted to play both, you're forced to do 1 and 1. But by doing that, I think you've kind of killed Volcanic in its whole gimmick. Because Shell at 2 is not great. And if I'm putting Jar here, which makes this even worse. But I guess the counter argument is, okay, then if you take this off, where do you put it? And if you put it here, I don't know, that sounds terrible. If you put it here and you want to play 3 shells. But I'll counter argument, if you think the deck's fine with 2 shells and you put it there, it's still serving the purpose of you would only play 2. But the problem is now you get a Golden Ladybug, if not 2. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, man. What do you do with this card? I don't think it deserves to be on the list. I just don't. I don't like that. I don't like it. Alright, let's be crazy for a second and take it off. Completely take it off. Do we put this here? Is this just such a problem? Like, is it such a problem? I never considered this card to be insane. I get the decks that exist because, you know, they're crazy, but I don't know what we do with that. Foolish, I think's fine here. As soon as they switched this on the last list, this and Nightmare Wheel got swapped, I thought it was perfect. Because now you're forced to either play 1 of this or 1 of this, and that's it if you're doing a burn thing. And Foolish, in this game, it's not insane yet to be at more than 1. So I think 2 is fine. At 3, maybe it's excessive, but at 2, I think it's a perfect spot. Same with Allure. I don't think Allure is overly that powerful in general. But you're playing 20 cards, so I understand like having it as a semi-limit is probably the best spot for it. What else? Cyber Angels, to me, is a deck that needs to get hit, even though it already got hit. But I don't really know what you do. I think this is the perfect way to hit it. I think, if anything, and this obviously being here as well. I think if anything, if you're gonna do anything else to the deck, you just nerf the cards that can play, like Night Beam. Share the Pain maybe as an argument. I don't know if you need to. Crystal Beast is another one too, where like, would you hit it any other way? Would you put Conclave on the list? All right, we added these cards. So okay, let's just throw Share the Pain on the 3 list, so that if you want to play Share the Pain with this deck, you go 1, 1, and 1. And if you don't, you go, what, 2 and 1, and you just don't play it? I think that's fine. And then Conclave can also sit in the 3 of list. I don't know, is that too strong? Does that just kill it? Does that kill Crystal Beast if they're both on the 3 list? Like if, oh, actually it might, because then you're just not getting access to any of this stuff. Ooh, that's tough. I feel that's really tough. Is it time to put this here? Does anyone disagree with us? No, I don't know. I don't know. That's Book is such a strong card, but I don't think you go as far as throwing it on the 1 of list. If the downside to throwing it on the 2 of list is then now anything you'd play with Book, like alongside it, like Floodgate or something, kind of goes unimpeded. Then you're like 2 Book, 2 or 2 Book 2 or 3. I don't know. I don't know. I think we just stick it where it's at. Mold of Disruption, too, is like the card that, like, it definitely probably should stay where it's at. It can't come off. Can any of this 3 of stuff come off? I think this is fine where it's at. I don't think we touch that. I think that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. This is debatable, but probably fine. This, actually, here's an idea. What if we throw this here? I don't think Cosmic's insane in this game, because you have to pay 1,000, but counter argument is that it's so versatile and just strictly the best removal spell, arguably. I actually hate that this came to the game, because it made cards like Dust Tornado basically irrelevant, and while we've since had like Night Beam and Galaxy Cyclone and stuff like that, just why wouldn't you play this in most cases, you know? Yeah, but the problem is here too, like if you move that, then I say you definitely move this. Because having, what, 2 to 3 Cosmic and a 2 Book, 2 to 3 Book in the same deck is nuts. So here on the 2 list, you make them choose between 1 and 1. Or if you need a lure, then you're not playing Cosmic, or you're not playing Book. Or if you need Foolish. I don't know, it gets tough, but I don't want to throw too many things on this 3 of list and keep them there, because then just nothing is playable, right? As it is, I'm already chucking Widespread here. And I'm already chucking a Night Beam here, and I'm already chucking Share the Pain, Creature Swap. I don't know, Creature Swap to me is just this card that like probably shouldn't be at 3 with no consequences. Now I guess there's an argument to throw it on the 2. But we'll just chuck it, just keep it there. In the decks where Creature Swap obviously thrives, it's insane. So that's my argument. Does anything else need to be touched? It's tough. I don't think anything needs to get banned. I personally think skills are the only things that should get banned, because I don't agree with the Ratas, but you guys have seen my videos. I don't think anything's so dumb that it needs to get removed from the game. I thought for the longest time that was Zoma. But on the ones list, I think it's fine where it's at. Maybe we should leave Shell where he is. Maybe we should just leave him there. This just seems like an excessive amount of cards, and that's why I'm kind of hating on it. But at the same time, I can make arguments for things. Definitely make arguments for things. Do I think? All right, let's go off of this. Right, this is probably where I'd keep everything. This is where I'd want stuff. I disagree. This is is that where I want stuff? That's not where I want stuff. This is where I'd want. No, this. This is where I think I'd want the list to go. Maybe this here. If it's me, right? If it's me, this is where I want stuff to go. This is how I want the list to be set up, and just to make it a little bit easier to understand, just don't look at these, right? Just compare this, right? This is where I want the list to be. Breaker to 1, Offerings to 1, Rhoda to 1, Nightmare, Zoma, Lava Golem, and Black Metal Dragon. And then at 2, you have Golden Ladybug, Parasite Paranoid, Allure, Shell. Although I kind of hate that. Alright, if we're going off my list here. There you go. There's your answer. So at the 2 of you have Ladybug, Paranoid, Allure, Foolish, Macro, Jinzo, Jar of Avarice, Union Scramble. I don't think this is crazy, guys. I just don't think it's crazy. But tell me why I'm wrong down below. And then at 3, you have Paranoid, Cyber Angel Ben 10, Warrior Lady, Shell, Cyber Dragon, Machine Angel Ritual, Book of Moon, Cosmic Cyclone, Crystal White Geki, Floodgate Trap Hole, Wall of Disruption, Widespread Ruin, Creature Swap, Dogoron, Mind Crush, Night Beam, Share the Pain, Crystal Conclave, and Supply Squad. But what do I think Konami is going to do? I don't think they're going to touch this. I doubt they'll touch this. I don't think they're going to touch this. I don't think they're going to touch... Where is it? I don't think they're going to move this. I think they're going to leave that where it is. I don't think they're going to touch Jar. I do think they're going to take Union Carrier off, but I don't think they're going to replace it with Scramble. I think they're just going to leave it as is. So I guess this is where I think Konami's going to leave it. Oh, they're not going to touch Share the Pain. Yeah, I think this is where Konami's going to leave it. They're just going to put Breaker to 1, this to 1. I think they're going to do something with this because I feel like they need to. Whether it's this or this, I guess we'll find out. But they probably won't move Jinzo. I think they'll leave it there. I just think they should... They gave it support, right? It's a Konami trope to give something support and then take it slowly off the list. I don't know if they're going to touch Macro personally. I just don't agree with it being... If anything, they'll probably chuck it there. And then call it a day. But as far as the 3 ofs, I think that's what they'll do. I think Widespread definitely gets on here. I think Swap should go on here. Alright, maybe if it's Konami, they're not going to hit Swap. I do think... maybe not Mind Crush either. I think Night Beam's finally had its time where it's going to be on there. No, I think Konami's got... I think Konami will hit that. I don't think they'll hit this. But I think they'll hit these 4 for sure. But again, let me know in the comments down below where you guys are at. I know this is a lot of things. When you go off this Duel Links setup, right, where you can only play 1 card in the 1 list, 2 cards in the 2 list, and 3 cards in the 3 list, it makes a bigger conversation because definitely things can change. Definitely things can change. Oh, Konami probably will leave this here. I just disagree. I don't think Cocoon needs to get hit. But this is probably what Konami will do. And then you guys saw previously what I wanted. But, I'm just going to take it off anyway. Let me know what you think. And, it's always a fun conversation. Ban list. No one's ever corrected. No one's ever happy with anyone else's decisions. And it's always a giant battle in the comments. So can't wait to read this. I'll see you guys in the next one.
For more amazing Speed Duel content, subscribe to Yugi Bros. It's time to duel!